Super Lucky Disaster Man. Chapter 95, Extra, Whitewashing Phase, The Helpful Komaeda Nagito. Although he could understand the subtle expressions of those familiar police officers, Komaeda Nagito still chose to ignore them. He smiled and greeted, "Long time no see, Detective Takagi." Originally, everyone present were all pitiful people trapped inside the shop. Mori Kogoro aside, once Komaeda Nagito, this nobody, was greeted, combined with the complicated expressions of the police, some people ended up misunderstanding. Whatever anyone else thought in their minds, at least they kept their mouths shut, but Mori Kogoro took the opportunity to ask Inspector Megure, who stood beside him, "Is this kid a frequent?" Mori Rang immediately understood her father's unspoken words. He's suspecting that a person familiar to the police officers might be a repeat offender. She hurriedly tugged at her father's sleeve, and even though Komaeda Nagito couldn't hear from afar, she still gave an apologetic look, then explained, "No, he's just an unlucky constitution." "Yes, just an unlucky constitution." "Unlucky constitution?" Mori Kogoro looked puzzled. "Wait, Rang, do you know him?" "He's my senpai. He's also quite close to Shinichi." Mori Kogoro's expression immediately turned fierce. "Oh, that brat, huh?" Inspector Megure also understood and coughed. "That kid, how should I put it, he always shows up in strange situations, but until now he's always been innocent." Of course, just because he was innocent before doesn't mean he is now. "We'll enforce the law fairly. Why am I explaining all this to you, Kogoro? You're also a suspect right now." Mori Kogoro. Though there was a slight interruption, the first round of suspect screening proceeded normally. Very soon, those who had been to the bathroom and those who hadn't were separated, and the ones with no suspicion were allowed to leave. "Actually, it's possible the culprit has already left," said Mori Kogoro, who, despite being cleared of suspicion, still remained. "Honestly, couldn't they just install some cameras?" Just as Kudo Shinichi was about to say something, he glanced at his own much shorter height compared to Mori Rang, remembering in time that he wasn't supposed to talk, and grudgingly closed his mouth. Komaeda Nagito noticed Kudo Shinichi's hesitation and leaned down to whisper, "Do you want to say something?" The culprit didn't leave. Based on the bleeding condition of the wound and the victim's sighting entering the bathroom, Kudo Shinichi seemed to have found an outlet, and eagerly babbled his deductions to Komaeda Nagito, finally feeling a bit of relief. "Ah, it's really frustrating to hold back. When can he return to his original form? In his current state, there's no way to conduct proper investigations. After all, no one pays attention to what a child says." Komaeda Nagito listened with a smile and asked eagerly, "Do you know who the culprit is now?" I still need to observe more." The police thought similarly. "Komaeda-kun." Detective Takagi walked over with his notebook, inquiring, "Can you tell us how you found the body?" "Of course." Komaeda Nagito said, "I got water on me, so I went to the bathroom to clean up a bit. While I was pulling out some toilet paper, I suddenly heard a strange noise. I went inside, and in the farthest stall, there was someone covered in blood sitting on the toilet." Wait. Detective Takagi scratched his head. "Are you saying that when you went in, the door was open?" "Yes," Komaeda Nagito confirmed. Detective Takagi immediately walked away from Komaeda Nagito, turned around to ask a colleague something, and then returned, his expression complicated. "Komaeda-kun, the person who went in before you said that at that time, the door was closed." Kudo Shinichi, who had already visited the crime scene before the police, sighed. It must be a coincidence. Suddenly being interrupted by the elementary school student, Detective Takagi asked, "Huh?" Kudo Shinichi replied confidently, "Senpai, cough." Komaeda ni heard a strange sound. It must be that the lock on the door was broken at that time, and with the lock no longer holding it in place, the wind blew the door open, allowing Komaeda ni to see the body directly when he passed by. Detective Takagi forced a smile. "Huh, what an imaginative kid. Sounds like quite the coincidence, doesn't it?" However, Komaeda Nagito completely believed in Kudo Shinichi's judgment, so that's how it is. Detective Takagi. He really wanted to shout, "How can it be such a coincidence? Why are you believing a kid's nonsense?" But his professional conduct kept him smiling awkwardly without voicing his frustrations. "Alright, let's drop it for now. Komaeda-kun, why did you go in to check? I mean, if you heard a strange sound, wouldn't you ignore it instead of investigating?" Komaeda Nagito thought about it. "Not really, mostly intuition. I thought there might be something unexpected happening." He said this while glancing at Kudo Shinichi. "After all, there's a detective here. It feels more normal if something happens, right? This is a detective's fate." Detective Takagi. By detective, is he referring to Mori Kogoro? Do kids these days always talk so weirdly? Kudo Shinichi understood but was at a loss for words. Senpai is at it again. Why does he always look forward to cases happening when they are together? Even if I'm a detective, it's not like I'm solve cases every day. Detective Takagi, with a forehead full of question marks, asked all the necessary questions and went to report to Inspector Megure. Inspector Megure took the responses from the suspects and fell silent. This kid, Komaeda Nagito, why does he seem so suspicious? Everyone's answers were normal, but his was the weirdest. Anyway, the culprit should be among you five, Inspector Megure sighed. If you confess now, the punishment will be lighter. Of course, no one responded. Kudo Shinichi frowned, hiding behind Komaeda Nagito, carefully observing everyone's expressions. Suddenly, something came to Kudo Shinichi's mind. He pulled Komaeda Nagito aside to a corner and, with a serious expression, whispered, "Senpai, did you do anything?" Komaeda Nagito smiled. "What do you mean by, did anything?" Kudo Shinichi scrutinized Komaeda Nagito's expression. "I mean, you didn't tamper with any evidence this time, did you?" "Kudo-kun, I told you before, that was a special situation." Kudo Shinichi let out a sigh of relief. "That's good. There was an incident during an armed detective agency mission previously. He and Komaeda Nagito were in charge of investigating the scene, and after arriving, he felt that something was wrong. He eventually concluded that Komaeda Nagito had destroyed part of the evidence while he was talking to the victim's family. Upon discovering the truth, Kudo Shinichi felt a huge headache. "Senpai, why did you do something like that?" Because it was the victim's wish." Komaeda Nagito said back then with a serious and almost unsettling gaze. "It was just a bit more for him to succeed, and I wanted to help him become Hope." The victim was a famous mystery writer. When Komaeda Nagito heard it was this author who died, he immediately expressed interest in coming along, which led to him and Kudo Shinichi teaming up. Thinking back, Kudo Shinichi realized that he should have been more cautious when his senpai showed interest in the deceased. After getting the destroyed clues from Komaeda Nagito, Kudo Shinichi finally deduced the truth. The deceased, a famous mystery writer, had disguised his suicide as a murder. The reason seemed to be that he wanted his death to become an unsolved mystery. This was inferred from the family's description. It was said he was terminally ill, so perhaps he wanted to use his final moments to toy with everyone. The author's son also admitted that the plan should have ended with him destroying some clues to make the case completely mysterious. But after seeing his father's body, he couldn't bring himself to do it, so he had to retreat before being discovered. For a reason like this, Kudo Shinichi could only sigh, and after solving the case, he received no thanks and left frustrated. What a pity, it was so close. Komaeda Nagito was still lamenting on the way back to the armed detective agency. If that author's son had followed through, the author's wish would have been fulfilled. Even the police hadn't figured it out. Kudo Shinichi frowned. This kind of thing. Even though killing oneself isn't against the law, Kudo Shinichi still didn't agree with it. As for his senpai, Kudo Shinichi was indeed impressed. Komaeda Nagito arrived 10 minutes before the police investigation team did. Not only did he discover crucial evidence, but he also deduced the victim's purpose and wishes, even going so far as to fulfill them. If it weren't for missing the optimal timing, it was uncertain whether the truth could have been revealed. Why couldn't Komaeda-senpai apply his incredible observational and action skills to a more proper, legitimate cause? Kudo Shinichi was quite troubled. But after all, Kudo-kun is still more amazing, ah. To lose to Kudo-kun, the victim must be quite happy even in the afterlife, Komaeda Nagito said with a light tone. As expected of someone aiming to become a great detective. The collision between hope and hope is truly blinding. Kudo Shinichi. Senpai, you truly have no remorse, do you? In short, due to this whole experience, Kudo Shinichi was left with a psychological shadow, worrying that Komaeda Nagito, as the first to discover the victim, might casually handle something again. Komaeda Nagito solemnly promised, this time I really just took a glance and confirmed whether he was breathing before stepping back. Alright then. Kudo Shinichi, recalling what he had seen at the crime scene, decided to temporarily believe Komaeda Nagito. Can I ask you a few more questions? Of course. After asking Komaeda Nagito a few more questions, Kudo Shinichi, relying on his young age and being less conspicuous, went around gathering information from the police, eventually revealing a confident smile. He whispered something to Komaeda Nagito, who kept nodding, looking increasingly excited. After a while, Komaeda Nagito stood up and walked toward Inspector Megure. Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but I know who the culprit is. Everyone. Are you, the most suspicious person here, joking? Chapter 95 End.